Welcome to Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time, the podcast where Lex and I take turns trying to blow each other's minds with our movie picks. Doesn't have to be anything obscure, doesn't have to be anything too out there. The only prerequisite is that the other person can't have seen the movie that the other person has picked. Is that how we do it? Yeah, I think
That's
I
how we
nailed
do
it.
it.
I was on my way to the gym. I forgot we were recording right now, but I'm feeling pretty fresh, so let's do it.
Let's do it. It's my pick this week, and I just need to make sure that you're locked in, counselor.
All right, now I really hate that we're doing video because you're bringing props and I barely even have my notes ready and my
Some
hair.
might say props are hacky, so I think you're in the lead right now. This go round is my pick. It's The Counselor from 2013, directed by one Ridley Scott, written by one Cormac McCarthy. I mean, is this the most modern movie that we've watched so far? I had to pull us into the modern era, Duncan.
That's a good point. I think you might be right. I think you might be right. What would be the second? Maybe like Clifford?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
That's right. Yeah, I think you're right.
All right. Well, those are some heavy hitters, right off the bat. Sir Ridley Scott, and I don't know what the Texas equivalent of a sir is, but Cormac McCarthy would probably have it.
He would definitely have it, right? Considered one of our great American novelists, I think.
Yes,
I would say,
and I really would love to shame you by saying I've read a lot of his books because obviously I'm the kind of the well-read one of the duo, but I haven't really read that much. I just read Blood Meridian, which I loved.
Yeah, the same. That's all I've read. But what I do know is that Ridley Scott has read all of his books. Evidently, I don't know if that's Sir Scott's bluster or if that's actually true. But did you hear that he was adapting Blood Meridian before this came to him?
I didn't, but I feel like I heard bandied about over the years a lot of different kind of top-notch A-list directors wanted to tackle Blood Meridian.
Untackleable.
Imagining him reading all his books, I'm sure he probably has, but sometimes that always just kind of makes me think of like Tom Cruise. I don't know if you've seen the interview where he talks about how when De Palma said he was thinking about doing Mission Impossible, Cruise went back and watched his whole oeuvre. And I was like, his whole oeuvre? Like, is Cruise watching Hi, Mom? I mean, Cruise isn't even really watching Sister. He's starting with like, Body Double.
For sure. Yeah, there's no way that Ridley read all the stuff, but I don't care. One thing I feel like I can safely say is that Ridley Scott is a joy to listen to. I feel like we don't have Friedkin anymore to just blow hard, and Ridley Scott takes the mic and goes. Like I can just listen to him go and go and go.
He's pretty amazing. I imagine he's a real terror on the set, and super intimidating.
And did you hear that Cormac was on set for the whole movie of this?
I did.
And that it was kind of driving Ridley nuts.
I didn't know how nuts it drove him, but I would imagine there can only be so many, big swinging dicks on set.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was trying to remember some of those other directors that were toying with tackling Blood Meridian, and one of them is James Franco. James Franco was, back when he was just adapting like a Faulkner adaptation every 2 weeks. Well, Child of God. Yes, I was getting to that.
Sorry.
But I was saying, yeah. No, it's so easy.
Did you watch either of those?
I didn't. There's a lot of James Franco's directing oeuvre that I have not watched. I mean, there's a lot there. You got a novel, you got a short story collection, you have an acting school, You have there's a lot going on to dig in if you're going to have a James Franco film festival. And
That's
I'm a
true.
big fan of the acting. I mean, hey, I watched The Deuce. I was a big fan of The Deuce.
Yeah, I never saw that.
It was good. He played twins.
I haven't seen much David Simon. I'm the guy who, when they say, "Have you seen The Wire?" I go, "No," or I started it and I was like, "This is not for me." And
How
everybody's
far did you
like, "You
make it?
just got to go back. You just have to start with season 2. You just have to start with season 3."
I
I'm
hate
like,
when people say that too. Yeah. So you haven't watched The Wire. You haven't watched Mad Men. What the F do you watch?
Alien Earth brought
Okay.
it
I
back
heard that was
around.
good. I heard that was good.
Um, it's it is what it is. I'm not gonna recommend it, but I had fun. I thought it was. Look, I love Alien. Uh, I love Ridley. I love that whole universe. I feel like so. If we're gonna rewind and talk about Ridley for a second, um,
We're going to talk about Ridley for more than a second, my friend.
I how do you feel about sort of the difference between the beginning, Duelists, Alien, Blade Runner, and then what he is today? What we think of him as. Yeah, I feel like those movies are game changers. And then there is this other style of movie that he started to do in the early 90s that carries us into today. Thoughts?
I would just say that Sir Ridley, no disrespect, because he's directed some of my favorite films, but it is almost more than any other kind of big, prolific A-list director of the biggies, of the heavy hitters. He seems to have kind of the most mixed bag filmography. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's prolific. He likes to move. I feel like
He tackles, genre after genre. He's fearless.
I feel like what he seems to love is being expert and getting a job done with efficiency. I mean, often when you hear him talk about his movies today, or, like in the last 10 years, he's talking about how fast, how quickly he did it, how quickly he got talent, how quickly he got things done, and he always talks about, and it's because I've been doing this forever and I'm so good at it. And that's what he seems to enjoy. And I can't knock him for that. He's right. He like he makes shit happen. And it's impressive. And yes, sometimes it's kind of a snooze. But sometimes it's totally engaging, and then he gets some of the best performances of all time. He's a part of movie history. I
I
mean,
mean,
what I like,
he's really been cranking them out lately.
yeah, for sure. I mean, what I love about him is that he delivers a popcorn movie, but every movie he makes is for adults. It's not for a general audience. It's big boy Hollywood movies, which I feel like are kind of a rarity, especially now. And I mean, he talks about it often. His hero is Kubrick, and that's who he has sort of emulated. Um, and
That makes two of us, Ridley. That makes two of us.
he's the bridge to Nolan and Denis. I feel like he paved the way for those guys to make the kinds of movies that they make. Um, that's that's my take.
I think that's a good take. I would agree with all of that. And yeah, I mean, just not so much off the top of my head, but for me, you mentioned Alien, you mentioned Blade Runner. I'd put up there at the kind of his like top, 4 or 5 or 6. I'd put Thelma and Louise way
Hmm.
up there. Gladiator.
Hmm.
I love Black Hawk Down.
Hmm.
Um, you
People love
know,
American Gangster. It's
yeah, I
kind of
know
getting
people
some
do.
stuff recently. I feel like I only saw it once and I was a little bored. Now, you know what I just bought that I'm excited about is Kingdom of Heaven director's cut, which everybody says is something to behold, and he also says like this is one of his greatest movies. That said, I also, hey, I'm a Black Rain guy. I'm an 80s and 90s Ridley. I love it.
I'm a fan of Black Rain as well. I was going to say Black Hawk Down again. Yes, both of his blacks, but I also like his whites because I like White Squall a lot.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, or what actually are, because there are some notable movies for me that I have not seen. What are the movies that you have not seen of his? And White Squall, I'll admit, White Squall, I have not seen.
There's quite a few. White Squall is very good. Jeff Bridges is great in it. You probably know it. I think the tagline from it that I'm spacing about "one for all" or "all of us" means has become like a QAnon became the QAnon
That's what
motto.
I was going to ask. How
Yeah.
did it get this sort of stigma attached to the movie? I've heard that. I don't really know much about it.
Well, it is a lot of handsome young white men in the
On
movie.
both.
But I think it's like anything. I don't know. Someone posted on 4chan, and then
Okay, and it just takes off.
just becomes a thing. Yeah, it's certainly nothing about the content of the movie. I mean, it's still. I think Fight Club is still a lot more
Right,
QAnon-y.
right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies I haven't seen. I've not seen House of Gucci. I haven't seen the last Duel, Robin Hood. There's a lot of Sir Ridley's work that I have not seen, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to watch his entire filmography before this podcast. But that's
Well,
not what we
it's
do
just
here. That's not
it's
what we
all
do here.
laid out before us. I'm excited. I love that there's so much, and I still get to chip away. I mean, I haven't seen Matchstick Men. I haven't seen GI Jane. Uh, like I said, Kingdom of Heaven. There's a lot. There's a lot there. And
Okay, I was underwhelmed by Matchstick Men. I remember being
oh, is that
very
right?
excited for it, and I was like Nick Cage and Sam Rockwell as a couple of con men.
What since you mentioned House of Gucci, I'm going to play you a little clip from a show that you're familiar with. But what I love about it is the way he says the word dude, which he often says.
Yeah, well, then don't forget, Jared Leto is underneath all that makeup. That was Jared Leto? That's Jared Leto, dude. It's amazing.
And there's our friend Mark Maron. I do remember that episode. That was a good episode.
It's a good app. It's a good app. But I just love when Ridley says, dude, so good. Um,
And I'm sorry, I've got to just go back because this was bothering me. Yes, it was James Franco. He did direct The Disaster Artist, which was his
really,
the riff on the room that
The
was
Room.
very good, and that was a hit. That was kind of the movie where it's like, oh, okay, he's able to direct a kind of a crowd pleaser, fun, one foot in a artsy meta comedy world
Yeah.
movie. But it's just amazing that all the not only the two Faulkners, but also in Dubious Battle, a huge Steinbeck adaptation. He did all these like
What?
kind of indie shoestring budget adaptations of what felt like should be kind of uh, epics, and did them all very fast. But that's another episode, Lex. That's
That is
another
wild.
episode. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you: is there more you want to talk about as far as the Ridley canon, or do we want to jump into this movie?
Let's jump into this movie. Let's jump
Okay.
into this movie.
Here's to kick us off. I read a review about this movie that says it plays, and this as a positive thing, it plays like a Cormac McCarthy audiobook with Ridley visuals, which I is something I actually love about this movie, is that I feel like Ridley serves up the Cormac verse, and indulges in it. But I do feel like there are themes that are very Ridley Scott throughout. Hubris, man versus systems. So it still feels like authentically Ridley, but it is very much, I feel like, a standout from the whole catalog. This is not what you think of necessarily, besides the visuals. This is not what you think of as a Ridley Scott type movie. This feels like an outsider piece, and it feels like more of this is not a shocking thing to say, but it feels like more of a movie that his brother was making towards the end of his career with like Domino and that kind of stuff.
I had the same reaction and read somewhere that it was his brother Tony died, passed away, so sad in the middle of filming this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that maybe there was a little bit of a love letter, a little bit of homage to his brother in here,
which I think is easy to see. There are times when visually those guys, the brothers, kind of their style seems a lot alike, but the movies that they tended to choose were pretty different.
Fair to say that Tony Scott a little more popcorny.
Yeah, but again, with like towards the end, the movies were getting sort of like avant-garde a little bit. Man on Fire, Deja Vu, Domino. They were getting very trippy. And kind of losing the tightness, the sort of plot-oriented tightness that you normally associate with the big Tony Scott movies of Crimson Tide and Days of Thunder and Top Gun and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, let me tell you, Lex, I was excited to watch. I was kind of unsure how I missed this one. I think I missed this one like a lot of people missed this one.
Yeah, and a lot of people did.
Came out and the reviews were
not good.
Stinky. Not good. Not good to say the least. I think a lot of people saw it, took a look at this incredibly stacked cast, probably one of the sexiest adult casts that I can think of for an American film this century. I mean, it's just one hottie after another. I'm talking about the fellas and the ladies. The leads and the supporting parts. This is a very sexy cast. This cast smolders. That's a lot of pressure because if you're going to put a movie out with this cast and it's not a sexy movie, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
I think.
Pretty sexy movie.
Well, a lot of people disagreed. I'm not going to tell you where I land just yet.
No.
Not even by the. Even going by Sir Ridley's, stinker scale and his bombs, this one rated pretty high.
Yeah,
according to the critics,
like
at the
tomato
time.
meter type.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Not that I look at the tomato meter and give an
not.
F about that, but you know what I mean. This was a kind of an infamous bomb of that year.
Yeah, but catching sort of everybody right at a great time. I feel like Fassbender had Prometheus, which was probably his highest profile movie, but up until that point was like, the up and coming like indie hottie.
Prometheus was a snooze for me, but okay.
No, I'm just saying like full scale, like big studio movie. Like
he's doing the big studios, but hey, don't he can do the big artsy. I'm thinking of Shame, the big artsy. Talk about big
any of those
big swinging dicks. Well, he's
I know
famously naked in that. I went to a screening of that at the AFI. I guess that was some kind of premiere, and he was walking around with a cigar after, and just owning the room.
Well, the thing is, I feel like he is perfectly cast in this movie. Like he plays charming ego and my shit don't stink so well, and can just kind of navigate, angel and devil at the same time. I don't know. It's a real. I think it's not like like that is the Fassbender performance of a lifetime, but he's the part. I would say, but then
I would agree. He's the part. There's a lot. He's got to be the anchor because there's a lot of flash going on. There's a lot of scenery chewing. So he anchors it really well. And you're right. There is a level of hubris that his character has from the beginning. He's too successful. He's too good looking. His fiance is too beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, Penelope Cruz has never been more not just beautiful but also just so winning in a not particularly flashy or chunky role. She does so much with it, and she's so great. I mean, your heart just breaks for what you feel like is coming down the pike for her.
I know. And so this was the second time I had seen this movie. I'd only seen it once before. It made a huge impression on me. And literally every scene that she's in on a second watch, yeah, your heart is breaking because if you've seen it before, you know what's going to happen, and it's just like.
And if you haven't seen it before,
brutal.
you also kind of know what's going to happen.
That's true. But
There's a lot of telegraph.
Yes, there is. I mean, we could talk about it now, or we can wait till the end. But that final moment that you see her body get chucked into a trash heap is, it stuck with me for days and days and days. Just that notion of how harsh the universe is, and then you've got this beautiful human that's all you've seen of her is sort of just, purity and innocence and beauty, and then just thrown into a trash pile like she's a bunch of trash is just like, oof.
And if she was an Uggo, it wouldn't have even registered with you. Is that what you're saying, Lex? Is that what you're saying?
That's entirely what I'm saying.
Okay.
But how could anybody say that this movie's not sexy when the first 5 minutes is all under the sheets? Like, that is a great scene. No?
Okay. Well,
Here we go.
We're gonna disagree. We're gonna Siskel and Ebert on the first scene already here. I've got to say, this first scene, the kind of disembodied, you get a shot of two people canoodling under a sheet. Then you have these disembodied voices that don't sound like they're coming anywhere from near the sheets. And I looked this up, and I saw some other people made this comment too. The voices don't sound. You don't feel like they're under the sheets. It feels a little wonky, that first scene.
What are you talking about? They don't sound like they're coming from under the sheets.
It feels like two actors doing ADR, and it does not feel like that couple is under the sheet. It feels a little wonky, and believe me, I've been on a Reddit chain. I've seen other people also make the same comments.
I started a Reddit chain.
I started a Reddit, and I have many different names I use under it, and I just to confirm my. Anyway, then we're under the sheets with this amazingly attractive couple, and we're getting some dialogue that is I'm really on the fence about. That is, okay. I'm like, I don't know if this dialogue is sexy or just pure camp. And obviously, I want to be reverent to. I feel a reverence to an author that the book of his I read, I love, but I haven't read his other books. But he's an American master. But at the same time, the guy is like in his 80s when he's writing this, right? So Penelope Cruz telling Fassbender to I don't know, touch her down there. I'm like, I'm kind of like half snickering, half. Digging it. The scene does get better, but I've got to say that first minute or two under the sheets, I'm worried.
You're worried in what
about
way?
this movie.
Feels clunky. Yeah.
I'm feeling this. I'm feeling some clunk, and I'm not sure what I'm in for.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's part of it throughout. There's some ham-fisted elements to this, and it's just kind of, I mean, as soon as you see Cameron Diaz riding a horse after two cheetahs as they chase a rabbit, that's the next scene. Like, this is the movie that you're watching.
Yeah, and totally. And once you have that visual, you're like, all right, here we are. We're winking. We're referential. We're in a movie, and we're not in reality. But under the sheets, that's a quiet. I don't know. It kind of made me think of also one of my favorite movies, Eyes Wide Shut. But when someone talks about Eyes Wide Shut and how there are some clunky attempts at being
Yeah.
sexy that actually feel kind of dated and awkward. And you're like, oh, I think Stanley needs to get out more. That was kind of the realm
Yeah.
I felt like we were in this first scene.
Yeah, which I feel like is points out how hard it is to actually make something hot and
It
authentic.
is extremely hard to make something hot. That is for sure. Whether you're writing a sex scene in a novel
Right.
or in a certainly in a movie, yeah, no, you're taking a big swing. You're taking a not a big swing. You're taking a big risk. You're
Yeah.
taking a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
risk
yeah.
because it's kind of the easiest thing to pick apart and to ridicule if it doesn't land.
Totally. Um so you got past that.
I got past that. By the end of the scene, I was kind of feeling them as a couple.
Yeah.
The heat is almost undeniable, and yeah, and I was settling in for whatever this ride was.
I watched an interview, it's a panel after the movie that was clear. I don't know where it was in Europe, but clearly European journalists talking to Ridley and Javier, and one person, their question was to Bardem, how did you feel about that sex scene? What's it like for you to watch your wife, in a scene like this? And Ridley Scott just shuts it down so quick. First of all, he just goes like, ugh. And then he goes like, I'm sorry, this is a horrible question. Can we move on? Can we move on? Just like, man, Ridley's so good.
That's amazing, and also brings back, and I'm sure you've seen this clip. I think it went viral a couple of years ago. Javier Bardem, and it's a Q&A, and the possibly British journalist asks him a question, something like he's trying to be cheeky. What's it like to be the only, man in the world who looks forward to going to work with his wife?
Yeah.
And Javier Bardem, class act to the end, shuts that question down with a very simple, I'm paraphrasing, I think that question is an extremely bad taste. Just amazing.
I mean,
He's amazing. He's
he
amazing, and
is.
every year I love him more. I love his politics.
That's
I love his whole
exactly what I
vibe.
was going to say. I was like, what is it about that guy? The next time I see him, I love him more than I saw him before, and I want to see more of him.
Yeah, I just watched that Menendez brothers thing just to check him out, and then I'm watching the whole thing, and yeah, he's just amazing.
Okay, so
Terrifying.
This is topical for the podcast, and I'm dying to know if you already knew this. Did you see what he's going to be in this year on Apple TV, a TV show? 10 episodes, Cape Fear, he's Max Cady.
That's right. That's right. I did see that. That's a really good cast.
That's
Yeah,
so exciting. I don't know who's in the rest of the cast, but I'm in.
that is very exciting. He's Mitchum, De Niro, Bardem. I love it.
Oh, so good. But yeah, on the Bardem train.
But I've also got to say one other thing. It flashed me back to a real, not to name drop.
Okay.
But I was at Prince. I'm not going to say who I was with, but let's just say I was sitting VIP right by the stage, private table. Our friend AJ Ranella and Ashton were there, and Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz were at the next table, and they're dancing like they know that they're the two. I'm sorry, I'm talking about how hot everyone is, but that they're the two hottest people on the planet, and that everyone's watching them almost as much as Prince, and he's looking at her like, you're the hottest on the planet. She's like, you're the hottest on. They're like just having the sexiest dance, and I've seen footage of him at other concerts.
I have too.
He goes hardcore, so he works hard and he plays hard. That was the whole point of the story. That was it.
Great. What I love about this performance, especially in the context of Cormac McCarthy, is he's been established, a few years earlier as like one of the best performances, not only of a villain, but of a Cormac McCarthy role. And then here he's essentially a clown. and he's excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
From costume to performance, it's just to these monologues. It's great.
Yeah, this would be a great double feature with No Country for Old Men, one of my favorites. One of my favorites of the movies of the last 25 years. Probably, it's kind of up there, neck and neck with Fargo as my favorite Coen Brothers movie. But it's like No Country for Old Men with, I believe, there's no soundtrack at all, nor no orchestra. It's so stripped down and bare bones. And then you have this adaptation, or not this adaptation, but this Cormac McCarthy original that is so, bursting with color and flamboyance and things that kind of border on camp and long, mystical, philosophy-laden monologues. They really are. They're both of a piece, but also completely different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is there are some amazing set pieces in this movie, I think, but this could be a play, like it is monologue after monologue or two-person scene to
after monologue.
All right, so which monologues did you enjoy? Which we still haven't talked about, like two other major players in this movie. In the first half of the movie, who are you liking?
Well, I've heard, and I don't know if this was anecdotal or if this was on an interview, that Bardem is always kind of talking about like how, oh yeah, my Anton Sugar was so celebrated, but I mean, come on, I could have done that in my sleep. Where his other movie that year that he that I can't remember what it was called was Beyond the Sea.
Yeah, the one where he's like paraplegic or something.
Yeah, this maybe The Sea Inside. He always felt like that one didn't get enough.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably that actor thing. You can speak to this of your most celebrated performances not getting the, you always want people to have the eyeballs on the thing that's not as mainstream. Anyway, but not only is this a great double feature and they're kind of like of a piece but different, but also, I mean, his characters both have crazy hair in both. That's it. That's the only point I was making. Who else am I liking in this movie? Well, I mean, every character that comes on, I'm intrigued. Bardem comes on, he's wearing this, crazy, wild, silky, flowered shirt and the glasses, and he's kind of this mix of sap and sucker, and also this wily, untrustable businessman who can make things happen with, obviously, 1 foot, maybe 1.5 feet in the criminal underworld world. So you don't I kind of don't know what's really going on with him. Is he friend or foe with Fassbender?
And I don't know that about anybody.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody, it's very rules of the jungle. And they lean into lots of jungle wilderness prey and hunter talk, or certainly Cameron Diaz. And Diaz is interesting.
How'd you feel about Cammy?
Wearing her all her I know you're like trying to tee me up for a Diaz story, but I'm going to shock you and say I don't have one.
No, I'm just asking.
I should.
We haven't really seen her do this ever.
Well, I'm just delighted to see her on screen because I don't see her much. And even when she did this movie, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, but she'd kind of already slowed down by this point, right? In 2013?
She had like this and like maybe 2 other movies, and then she took her break, and then she did this thing like last year. But okay, I feel like she definitely has not played a villain like this, or maybe she's played like a cartoonish sort of a general audience villain, but not like a psychopath.
Yeah, although you could make the argument that this character borders on cartoonish. I mean, this is a character who's wearing like a cheetah print shirt and then takes it off, and when she's in a bikini, she's got cheetah spot tattoos.
Right.
So
He has a gold tooth, which you don't really see until the last scene.
yeah. So there's a lot going on with her. There's a lot of bells and whistles, almost more so than any of the other characters in her accoutrements. There's a scene. At first, I wasn't sure what I thought. Then there's a scene early on with her and Penelope Cruz. What are they? They're kind of by the pool. That really wins me over with her. I like seeing her having Penelope Cruz on the ropes, and yeah, I'm
Feel like that's
intrigued,
her best
and
scene.
she's well. There's one other scene that I would say is pretty close to her best scene. Um, I wouldn't say it's really her best scene, but a flashy scene.
Well,
But she's all in.
great
Everyone in
scene.
this cast is all in. I feel the love. I feel the excitement of like everyone's like we're making a Ridley, Cormac McCarthy joint, and we're gonna speak these mouthfuls of beautiful meandering dialogue and just give it her all. I really like kind of the all in attitude that I was feeling from this cast.
I feel like Pitt lives for this stuff. Like that role is exactly his sweet spot of just like, let me just roll in, just eat it up for a little bit and then roll out and then also have some pretty fantastic big set piece scene, which he gets.
Pitt
But a
Pitt
little
is
bit of
fantastic.
costume, just a bit of like sitting on a couch and laying out the rules. Like let that guy rock.
Yeah. Pitt is fantastic. He's the best looking. There's a mode he can get in where he's the best looking character actor that's ever been on screen.
Totally.
And that's the mode he's in this.
So I got a little bit of trivia. Did you look into the one little reference that happens in that? I think his first scene in the bar with Fassbender, when he goes, he's basically telling the counselor to not do this. Basically, are you in or you out? And it seems like you're kind of out, right? And he goes, maybe I should tell you what Mickey Rourke told what's his face. That's my recommendation anyway. And the counselor says, quoting what he's referencing, "This arson is a serious crime." Do you know what that's from? I had to look it up, so I didn't know.
Pope of Greenwich Village?
Body Heat, which makes sense because
Right.
it's a guy
Right.
that's in over his head and making a decision. So same sort of a mirror. But I thought that was pretty cool because I was like, what's he talking? He said Mickey Rourke. What's he talking about? And then I
Right. And Mickey Rourke's part is pretty minimal, right?
Yeah.
He's like the jailbird. They're sharing a cell together or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So pretty soon after that scene, we have the car fucking scene.
Well,
for lack of a better.
so ineloquent, so un-Cormac McCarthy. Well, even before that, there's there's some chunky there's some chunky moments that have me chunky long scenes that have me scratching my head, but I'm enjoying them. And one is Fassbender ring shopping for an engagement ring
Bruno
for
Gans.
Penelope Cruz. And yeah, this is no rom-com ring shopping montage. This is a long dialogue heavy scene with Bruno Gans as this I guess probably
Jeweler?
black market jeweler.
Yeah.
And they're talking about diamonds and using there were a few words that I looked up because I was like, is this a McCarthy like style and flourish? I'm assuming these are real diamond terms. I'd never heard any of them.
Yeah.
But I was I was drawn into this scene. I'm not quite sure why. There's very little at stake there. I think I'm getting the sense, even though they haven't stated it, that Fassbender's love for Penelope Cruz is so deep that it's causing him to get in over his head with the price of this diamond. And
is that what it was?
Well, it's not like
I
he needs the money, and that's why he gets involved with a criminal element.
okay.
You know,
He already had that in
they
mind,
play
right?
very close to the vest in terms of like it's like why does Fassbender, this successful lawyer, need the money? But at the same time, he's a lawyer who's also doing some court appointed cases. So you don't really know how much he needs and how badly he needs it. And later you find out he has money stashed away that he can go escape with.
Does tell
My sense is
somebody, he tells Bardem essentially like, I'm in deep shit. Like he more or less just kind of says that, and that's enough, at least for us.
right. And it seems like he's doing court appointed work, but living beyond his means, living
Right,
beyond his means.
right. Yeah. But yes, I agree that I was engaged with that scene, even though it doesn't really go anywhere, mostly because of what they're talking about. Bruno Ganz talks about, he essentially says, like, you don't really want me to go on a tangent here. And Fassbender's like, yeah, no, go for it. And so,
We've got time.
he got time. And he does, and he talks about essentially like post uh Judaism is like the end of culture and everything else is just mimicry. I think that's what he was saying. I want to watch it again to dig in deeper, but I think that was he was basically saying the world today is bereft of richness, cultural richness. Sort of, we've gone beyond the end.
Well, flash forward 12 years to us. True words never spoken. There's another long conversational scene when Javier Bardem takes Fassbender into the nightclub
Yeah.
that they are both financing, and he's kind of going into in depth over like the dance floor and the bar, and there's this long scene where he talks about a guy, Peterson, who him and the fellas played a prank on, and it turned out the guy ended up having some dirty sex. This goes on, and I was really like, okay, no one but a celebrated national treasure author writing one of his few screenplays could get away with this scene unless I'm missing something, because I don't think this Peterson character ever comes back, which is the number one David Mamet rule of screenwriting. Not that touting that, but to be talking about a character you're never going to see. And I actually couldn't even find a way to fit it in as an analogy or a metaphor. It just seemed even more so than the car sex scene. It seemed to me really out of place, even though I did enjoy it and it did make me chuckle.
Well, the easy argument is that Cormac McCarthy is not a trained screenwriter, but rather a storyteller, and he's not playing by the rules. So if he wants to talk about it, this is what we're going to get to talk about. But I would say that the most, I understand the fault in that. The most interesting thing about that scene is Fassbender's reaction to the story, which I read as like a moment where something about the whole scene and hearing this story, he's like, I think I fucked up. Like, I think I actually am way over my head. Something about this guy, I'm seeing how tacky and how fucked up this all is. And I'm suddenly terrified, and you can see it in his face. But that's the only time it happens until like everything goes haywire. So I find that scene fascinating for that reason.
Interesting. All right. Well, listen, those are the types of insights I come to this podcast for.
That's right.
So, okay. Well, you bring up McCarthy and, breaking all the rules. And, it does seem he's done a little screenwriting. There's something that he did in the 70s that got turned into looks like it was either a show or a limited series. And then there's something else he did that Tommy Lee Jones was in. But this is kind of goes to the push and pull of my feeling about the movie and the writing. in it. Like on one hand, I'm like, this guy's this guy is an American treasure. I'm loving this roughhouse Tex-Mex, Nietzsche
Yeah,
meets
this is
low
not approved
culture
by the Mexico's Board
philosophizing.
of Tourism. This movie.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that he's breaking all the rules. And yes, sometimes the characters sound, alike. They all sound
Right.
like Cormac McCarthy, but also that's a stylistic choice. This is a style piece, and it feels theatrical. It almost feels like Beckett or something. With all the characters are they're not hiding the fact that they are the authorial voice bouncing back and forth. And if I have a problem with it, the problem is on me because I'm a dumb bum conditioned to watching garbage, and I better get on board with what's happening in this movie and pay attention. But then I'll see something like a little clip of him on YouTube from the set, and they're talking about
McCarthy.
the movie and how this came about. And he's like, "Well, I was working on my two novels. I'm assuming these are the two novels he published, a couple years ago before his death. He's like, I'm working on my two novels, and I needed a break. And I thought, why not write a screenplay?" And then I'm like, oh boy, so this guy's just gonna kick back and
Like this is all the scraps that I just
have a little
like,
fun. Yeah, let me
squeeze
just
this whole conversation. Hold on. I think I had a good piece of shit over here.
exactly. We're not gonna cut anything. Nobody's gonna edit this thing. I'm just gonna bang it out, call up Sir Ridley, and maybe I'll spend some time on set
Oh,
flirting with Cameron Diaz. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it went, but I'm pushed back and forth because screenwriting is a skill, and there are plenty of fantastic. I don't think Norman Mailer never wrote a great screenplay. These are two different skills, and they take certainly screenwriting takes a certain amount of discipline. And did I want a few more tight turns in this? Maybe I did. Was I also having a fantastic time listening to this beautiful, poetic dialogue be bandied back and forth by some of my favorite actors? Yes, I
right.
was. So,
Yeah, right.
yeah, I was pushed and pulled.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of my feeling generally is like I love that this exists, and it's kind of a miracle that it does exist. And I remember when it came out, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. It felt like magic.
I love that
Before
as
I
a pull
saw it.
quote from a movie. I can't believe this is happening.
But uh I wanted to go back to the face that Fassbender had. It's the same face that it's more exaggerated, but it's what Bardem has when Cameron Diaz is on the windshield. He has a look of horror, and he explains it a little bit, but when you see it, you're like, he's terrified of this woman. And it's also the same look that he has when he gets shot, when he gets a bullet through his face. He makes the same face. I don't know, just a motif that's running through that like that little stuff also is super enjoyable. I feel like about this movie, in addition to the dialogue, is the Ridley part of the composition and the things, the wire motifs, the bolito and the the beheading on the road and all that stuff. It's for something being so loose and slow at times, it also uses all of its pieces, right? It has two sort of Chekhov's guns, the snuff film and the bolito, and both pay off pretty effectively. Even if you are, I mean, I feel like what works about it, yes, you see it all coming, but what that does is create a sense of dread and sickness in your stomach, as you just know the inevitable is going to happen, because everybody is, yes, broadcasting, look, if you make a decision and step into this world, you're not going to win. And sure enough, that's what happens. But even though that's going to happen, it doesn't make it like any less gripping to watch. I think it hangs over the whole movie.
McCarthy's Bolito, as it's called. Well, I have to tell you, I am I love the Bolito story when you hear it. I don't know necessarily that is going to come into play because there's so much that either
Right. That
doesn't or doesn't in a way that I was really able to grasp. And one being that McCarthy story, and even in some respects, like even though we flash to it, the car sex sequence where I was like, oh, because towards the end, as kind of the roosters are coming home to caw. What do roosters? Things
hens are coming home to roost.
Hens are coming home to roost. Every time I try and do something folksy and southern, it just it backfires, and I need you. Whenever something like that happens, because we kind of have the other shoe drops with the Bolito and the snuff film. I was like, is something going to happen with the car, or is McCarthy, or is the guy from that weird sex story going to come into this somehow? I found the Bolito very satisfying because I had forgotten about it.
Yeah, and also it's a hell of a moment too. I mean, it is gruesome when it happens. You don't quite think it's going to be quite that bad. And it is really brutal. And it actually, I think, makes the snuff film perhaps even more terrifying because we get to see what happens when the Bolito happens. And the snuff film, Brad Pitt has already said it's the worst thing you could ever imagine. And we don't get to see that. So if we see what the Bolito looks like, then what happens on that film is gotta be terrifying.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just to go back to the A side of both those segments, the snuff film, because the Bolito is described in such detail by Javier Bardem, I actually felt like the inner workings of a snuff film monologue I was expecting more from.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an odd moment. Brad Pitt's character asks Fassbender if he knows what a snuff film is. Have you ever seen one? Will you watch one? You're an accomplice. He doesn't really get into it. I was expecting a little more. I was like, oh, I'm expecting a little more, Cormac McCarthy philosophizing about the snuff film as a metaphor for I have no idea. I also wasn't sure if there was a level of sexual violence to the types of snuff films he was talking about. I think that's part of a snuff film, but I guess it's not technically what a snuff film is. It's someone.
I guess we'll have to watch 8mm again.
Well, that's so when the snuff film rears its head as an actual plot device, you're right. I'm already bruised and battered from the Bolito scene. I'm expecting that DVD to get popped into a player in some crappy little audio visual shop around town. Do you have a DVD? Yes. I'm expecting that, and I'm kind of glad we didn't get it. I'm expecting it to go into like dark, like B movie Fincher territory. But I'm absolutely fine that I
just
didn't
watching
get that.
Michael
more
Fassbender just
watching Michael Fassbender make that George C. Scott hardcore face. Yeah,
and he really can do it. He is a professional griever.
Yeah, I've never seen Fassbender in a movie where I'm like, no, he's always great.
And how about Ruben Blades?
Oh, is that how you say his name?
I think, I don't know, Ruben Blades, whatever.
Okay. He's very good too. I mean, I have to say,
I just love how ridiculous it is. He's like, I actually have to get off this call and take another call. I'm like, what are his calls that are lined up where he just tells people like bad news after
how
bad
bad
news,
they messed up and they
he
passed the point of no return? Well, let's just to that point, let's just talk about the structure of this movie, which is one of the things that I felt didn't work as well. I'm all for it's almost like this kind of like the this kind of two acts, you don't know where we're going, and then this third act explosion of violence and retribution. For the first act, there's a lot of talk and a lot of dialogue and a lot of words in the wind to Michael Fassbender about he doesn't know exactly what he's getting into, which I found very effective, and he plays it just right as this great looking guy who's
Just
never had a problem.
water off a duck's back.
It's all good. He can handle it. He's
Yeah,
friends with
yeah.
Javier Bardem. He's associated with criminals enough as the counselor where he knows how to play the game. And then let's say the kind of middle of the movie, there's a lot of things are starting to go wrong, and there's a lot of, hey, listen, characters telling Fassbender, listen, counselor, I can't tell you what to do. The pits of the gates of hell have been opened. Retribution is going to come faster and more and stronger and more hardcore, and the fates, the die has been cast.
Yeah.
The first time I found that very effective. The second, third, fourth, fifth time, I was like, okay, what is happening? I mean, there's the Pitt has a speech like that. Javier Bardem has a speech like that. Yeah, then all of a sudden, Ruben Blades or Blades is in the movie, and he has a speech like that over the phone, and it's like everyone's telling the counselor, and the irony is so thick that the counselor can't get counseled by anyone.
Yeah.
That felt like we were meandering into muddy, kind of repetitive waters.
Right.
And I was like, where is this movie going? And I was like, Fassbender, just get the hell out of town. He makes a plan with Penelope Cruz to meet her somewhere. I know she doesn't get there, but how does he know she's not there? You know what I mean? Like he never seems to quite put it together that she's not in, where are they going? Idaho? And I was dying to see the two of them in like Idaho or wherever they were, because they were both like cringing, like it was the most unsexy place ever.
I think the hotel was called the Idaho. I thought that initially, what you thought, but then I think they were just going to meet at a hotel someplace. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Anyway,
He's like,
I was
ooh, the
confused
Idaho
by that.
hotel. Okay, doesn't seem that far away to go. The Idaho hotel in town. Let me ask you this.
I
So
felt
you
like
see,
their plan didn't make a ton of sense, but I also just kind of gave myself over to the fact that, this is like characters exploring big themes and opportunities for things that are visually unique, and that's it. Like, story doesn't even matter. Like, I don't need to know that much about the cartel and how it works. Just that they're a force of vengeance is like, this is the stuff of myth. This is like Greek tragedy. So I don't
sure,
need the
I don't.
intricacies of plot. I'm not saying
Oh,
that's
I
what you
don't.
said, but
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, that was my feeling more as I got into this, that I wasn't looking for certain traditional aspects of a film like a Ridley Scott. I mean, that's what makes this not or outside the ordinary for a Ridley Scott movie, is that you typically would expect all the mechanisms of a Hollywood movie, and they're not there in this.
Okay, and you're looking at me and you're like, and Duncan just wants an episode of Narcos. No, that isn't what I want. I just wanted, I love Fassbender spiraling and things getting out of control as he's being told, the hunt is on, you're the prey. But I just wanted a little more variation
Yeah.
on what he was hearing
Yes.
from everybody. Everybody just gives him that that same speech that you are so effed.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great, and he plays it great. Like he's getting more and more upset with every speech. So in that way, there's a little bit of a
Right.
snowball effect.
And that it takes that much for an ego that big, I guess, or a guy that thinks he's Teflon and just finally it's like, dude, you took a step too far and you're fucked. Get it through
Right.
your head.
And I
And
wanted him to also be a little more active with what the plan was. You know,
right,
Penelope
right,
Cruz
which
is
he
your
is
fiance.
not.
You're gonna go to her instantly. There's a
No, he's like
moment
Jeremy
where he
Irons at the end of Damage. He's just kind of like
sobbing.
roaming around. Yeah,
Yeah, he is really roaming around. There's a nice moment where he ditches his phone and asks a woman to borrow her phone and makes a
right.
call. I read online because I was waiting. I was like, uh-oh, this cartel is so badass. They're going to kill everyone in its path. Supposedly there is a scene where they abduct that woman too, a random
Really?
stranger that took his phone. Yes, I read that online. That was when I was on doing
Wow.
my on my Reddit threads. Don't say I don't put the work in for this pod. So yeah, I wanted him a little more active. I wanted a little more variation in what everybody's kind of warning him away from. That said, yeah, I'm mostly on board for kind of the active retribution, revenge last third of this movie. I'm also starting to put the pieces together that these other scenes in the film that I find a little confusing that don't show our stars are kind of the uh, there's a parallel story of the drugs and how the drugs are put out there and transported.
Right.
That's kind of going along with the at the same time we get everyone from John Leguizamo to
Yeah.
this great character who's on the motorcycle who's got an amazing
Dean
speech
Norris.
about the dog food. Dean Norris, right? So that's clicking in because it took me a while to figure out. I was like, what is this subplot? I was like, oh, I see. It's not just about the motorcycle kid and how they intersect, but it's also about just kind of a kind of almost the wire-ish look at how these drugs are
And I
pushed out there.
feel like that's probably the Ridley, right? He's creating a bit of an engine for this movie that otherwise probably doesn't have one. It's a lot of off-screen news, which is why I think it could work as a stage play and probably be decent. It's just reports are coming in, of what's going on in the larger world or the larger plan, but otherwise it's all, you know, it, mano y mano and monologue, which is interesting because it's that clicks in with a bit of what Ruben Blades says about like once you're gone, your world is gone with you. It's all sort of your own making. Um, so you could choose to move on or you could just be in misery.
Right. Now, let me ask you, you've seen the movie a couple times. When you watched it the first time, were you seeing the cut or the uncut
I saw the
version?
cut. I had no idea that there was an uncut until you said, "Are we watching, this or that?"
Before I
Um,
plunk down my $18 for the copy that'll live on my TV and I'll never be able to find where it's stored again. Yes. Okay. So and any big difference? I mean, I know what the differences are because I looked them up. I think it's about 18, 19 minutes.
yeah. I think just scenes are longer. I mean, I can see where the cuts probably should be. I don't, remember my first watch of the theatrical version well enough to know, but I can get a sense of where I think probably things were cut out. But that said, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, you know, this is the way the movie is in the first place. So I don't mind that I'm getting more time steeped in this world. I'm learning a bit more about this world. I'm learning the dirt and the dust of it. Um, which maybe for another movie, I might find that annoying. I don't quite have a take on Ridley's trend of always having a director's cut. I mean, it pretty much across the board, he always has a longer version that comes out inevitably later. And in some cases, there are significant differences. I mean, the only one that I know well is Blade Runner. I've seen all cuts, and I will admit that the the final cut is the superior, but they're all different and they all do different things. Incidentally, I feel like actually this movie and Blade Runner have a lot in common, both with the naive hero sort of looking to escape with love, and these sort of machine like forces of antagonism and monologues that are keeping him down in the depths. But the in that case, in Blade Runner, like, I'm steeped in a world for longer, and I appreciate that about it, and I kind of feel the same way about this movie.
Is the final director's cut, is that the longest? We're talking about Blade Runner.
Blade Runner?
Is it the longest?
I
Okay.
think so.
Where do you land on the noir narration for Blade Runner? Which I think is that the second cut, or is that in the original version?
Theatrical. I think the story has changed a little bit over the years. I feel like the last time I heard him talk about it, it was something that he felt the movie needed. So it's not as if it was forced upon him, but Harrison Ford did not love the idea, and so you can kind of hear it in his voice. But then also, if you watch it with that narration, it really does not add that much, and I don't think it's a great addition to the movie.
Yeah, I should know more. I went through this a few years ago when my mom ended up seeing the Blade Runner sequel randomly. Wanted to see a Harrison Ford movie,
it to her.
And her mind was kind of blown, and she really loved it and was at the library and was like, I want to see Blade Runner. There's like 3 different versions here.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to remind myself, which was the one to recommend.
I don't know how it slices and dices.
Which Blade Runner do you recommend to your mom? In many ways, the movie I thought of watching when I was watching this movie was Killing Them Softly, the Andrew Dominic movie. Oh, interesting.
I have it. It's been sitting here on my shelf, and I'm like, I need to watch it.
Well, it's long. It's stacked with a great cast, including Brad Pitt. It's based on a George Higgins kind of pulpy crime novel, but also seems to take place in it has a very I believe Andrew Dominic's Australian. It has a very kind of like out of place, maybe not necessarily made by an American filmmaker feel, super stylized. And I had a lot of problems with it, but I was also along for the ride and enjoyed it. And at some point, I'm like, I got to watch that movie again, Killing Them Softly. So that was something I thought about a lot with this movie in terms of the different cuts. Yeah, I didn't see the first cut. It seems like the consensus is that if you're going to watch The Counselor, you go uncut, longer, director's cut, which makes sense to me because this is the type of movie where you're like in for a penny, in for a pound.
That's what I think.
If you want to hear this dialogue played out, you want it to go long. You want to feel like you're watching a unwieldy beast on screen, and like make an acknowledgement of that. So get on board with that. And if you're going to try and put this movie into a more traditional format and running time, you're probably just going to get a little less enjoyment out of it because it's not adhering to certain beats and conventions.
I do think it is one of these movies that probably, if we still lived in a world where people had TV and HBO subscriptions and not on demand, and they were just cycling through the movies, that this movie might gain popularity just because, as you said, the scenes are repetitive of warning the counselor, but on their own, if you just kind of popped in and you saw one of these scenes, you'd be like, I'll sit down for 10 minutes and watch this. Maybe you got to go do something. Then the next time you pick up another scene, you know, it is dreamy in that way, and it is rewatchable. I think as a result of that, you don't. It either it takes a total commitment or it takes no commitment, and you just kind of like pop on your favorite scene every once in a while.
I agree. It does feel like if people actually watch TV like that now, this would be something you'd catch at 1 a.m. on HBO and be like, how the hell have I not seen this?
Exactly.
But who knows? Maybe the kids on TikTok will rediscover it, and it'll be a huge hit. Whatever a huge hit is now, I have no idea. Maybe it's already huge on TikTok. Well, it feels like the rubber's getting pretty close to hitting the road. Do you want to fawn over Cameron Diaz's car scene anymore? Is there anything we missed? Anything you just want to vamp in your glasses? Who are you doing? Are you doing Pitt? Are you doing Bardem? Who are you being?
Now I'm the count. These are counselor style glasses.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting back and I'm about to let, you know, fate happen. I don't know quite what's coming at this point. But go ahead and hit me.
Well, I will say, I mean, if we're talking about fate and which way the winds are blowing, you've been very difficult lately, Lex. Very difficult, like a bronco that I haven't been able to bust, to tame, to break. And I thought this movie was just going to be a one more of Lex posturing, a lot of fireworks, a lot of big stars, a lot of sequences where I could hear you kind of like chuckling at how you know wild and campy they are. But my feelings were that you know this movie did win me over. Like I said, once you accept that there's two stylists cooking in the kitchen here, and almost they're I don't feel like they're fighting for dominance. I feel like there's an alchemy that ended up making something pretty damn interesting, and I'm there for the meandering dialogue and enjoying that. And you know I'm there for the superfluous, insane violence. The performances are all spot on. So yeah, was my mind blown? I'm gonna say yes.
Wow. My mind's blown. Has this happened? I don't think I've blown your mind before. I
What
feel
are you
like I've
talking
gotten
about?
some some okays.
Okay. This is so insane because I feel like we've been doing this is the third season of this podcast, and I feel like you still don't know what the franchise of the podcast. Your mind's either blown or it's not. So every time I say I give you a little pat on the head and say
sometimes
yes,
I don't believe you. That's what I'm
well,
saying.
that's
I believe
bizarre
you.
because believe me, I would love nothing more than to shit all over your picks. I mean, sometimes I might be a little more begrudging. You know, there's
Like okay.
patience, but I'm not going to give something a mind. This is like the episode we did where you wouldn't give me an answer, and I was like, I don't even know what we're doing anymore.
Wait, which episode was that?
I
I gave
can't
you an
remember.
answer?
I can't remember. You or no. And then there was one where your pick, you were like backpedaling, and then you were like, "Forget it. I'm revoking my pick." You're all over the place, is what I'm saying. And the listeners agree. It's all over Reddit that you're out of control. You're completely out of control. You don't even know what the show is.
Well,
I should have just gone to the gym. Before we sign off, you know, a lot of people don't realize we don't make the big bucks from this podcast. So leave us a review, right? Wherever you leave reviews. I know I don't really do that much either, but I don't listen to that many podcasts. I've done it before. I've left some reviews. Leave a review on iTunes, something like that. I don't know. Drop us some stars, right? How's that for an exit line?
Give a little. You got something out of us.
All right.
Hey.
Goodbye, counselor.
See you, counselor.